Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my next guest played junior hockey for the Kimberley Dynamiters and the Portland Winterhawks before moving on to a successful 659-game NHL career that spanned more than a decade with stops in Vancouver, New York, Boston, Phoenix, Nashville, and St. Louis. Over the course of his career, he developed a reputation as a reliable two-way forward who stepped up for his teammates and handled himself with professionalism. These days, he helps not only athletes, but men and women from all over maximize their potential as a result of his experiences and knowledge dealing with adversity. His book, The Comeback, is an inspiring story of desire, focus, transition, and life after the game. He is a feisty forward, dynamite dad, a terrific teammate, a wild Western leaguer, a wonderful winter hawk, a captivating Canuck. We both started junior hockey in a league that was rocky. His very next crest was Portland in the West. And then who knew? He was drafted in round 2. Wouldn't you know? He moved on to pro. He showed he could play after a short stint in the A. He's a good-looking fella and was a great NHLer. He had many discussions about his many concussions. Now he's a coach with a knack for getting people back on track. In the room, he was glue, and he's a good father, too. He's not a great cook, but he can really write a book, folks. In Spider-Man 2, Peter Parker gets captured. Please welcome to the show my buddy, Dave Scatchard. Scatch, how you doing, buddy?
Wow, buddy. I got to take a picture of that. What an intro that was, man. You got to come on the road with me. You got to come and see my events and stuff, man. That'd be amazing.
Well, you know what? You're an easy guy to get inspired by. Now, I knew your hockey stuff, and I knew your transition was one filled with adversity. I've heard about your book. I haven't read after this, by the way, because I'm going to forget. I'm going to mail you my book, and you mail me yours. We all good?
I'd love to do that. I was going to mail you a PDF copy earlier, and I absolutely forgot. I was running around doing 1,000 things, and so I apologize for not getting it to you. But yes, I will drop a book in the mail for you today. The Comeback, My Journey Through Heaven and Hell. Bestseller on Amazon. We're rocking it, buddy. I'm actually writing a second book right now.
Are you really? That is wild.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it, and it's the concept of the new book is essentially moving everything in your life from amateur to pro, like all the categories. So we might be a pro in business, but our health is amateur, or our health might be a pro, but our relationship is amateur. So the whole concept of the book that I'm writing now is to show you the strategies that I've used to kind of rebuild my life from the ground up after devastating concussions. And I wasn't even able to speak or walk, and we'll get into that later. But
well, we can get into it whenever. I'm going to get into your hockey career. People know, like, you're an established NHLer. We'll get into that, and that's great. But that's common knowledge stuff. I'm super, super inspired and interested in what you're doing. So please go on with the strategies, with how you came to be. Like, this is good. So elaborate wherever you want.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't always like to lead here, but it's kind of like, I think people need to know, right? Like,
me too.
I went dark, really dark after my career was over. I had it was 12 years technically, but I was on the roster for 14 years, and I was injured for a couple, and I was forced to retire. I had terrible, devastating concussions. I had 5 spots in my brain that showed that there was microhemorrhaging and bleeding, and I had difficulty speaking. I couldn't walk properly. Sounds, noises would just devastate me, and I would literally not be able to function in society, and I couldn't work. And I used to have a photographic memory when I was a child, and I had no memory. I was taking Alzheimer's medicine. I would be like a dementia person. I'd be driving down the road and have to call my wife and ask her, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Have an appointment at the Mayo Clinic. You got to get over there. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I'd be just completely lost. And then the Mayo Clinic was supposed to fix me because they're the smartest guys in the world. And then they just kind of gave up after 3 years. And they're like, hey, bro, like, you're just permanently disabled. Like, there's nothing we can do. We've done everything. And I was probably 35 years old, something like that at the time. I had 3 young ones. I had a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old at home. And I just broke down in my car, like, sobbing. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, holy smokes. Like I felt like I was a burden to my wife and to my family. And I felt people were like, kind of felt sorry for me, but it wasn't really real like sympathy. It was kind of fake. And I was really in a bad place, Terry. And I had to travel around the world, and I'm speeding this story up, but I traveled around the world for multiple years looking for answers with alternative medicine, with healers, with energy workers, with shaman, with monks. I was in the jungle in the Amazon. I was trying plant medicine. I did 2 years with Tony Robbins' Platinum Group, and I traveled around the world with Tony, and Tony would introduce me to different people that he recommended, and I would just dive
Now,
down
as
the rabbit.
this is happening, Dave, as this is happening, do you still have symptoms, or are you?
Oh yeah, bro! I couldn't even be in some of the rooms with Tony because there's loud music and people jumping around and strobe lights and stuff. And I'd like walk out of the room crying because I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like I can't even sit in this room. And Tony's brother-in-law, Scott Humphreys, recognized me as a hockey player and came over. He's like, "You're from the Canucks, right? Like you used to play with the Canucks." I'm like, "Yeah." And he runs the Platinum Partnership Group. And he's like, "Hey, listen," he goes, "I'm going to hook you up with Tony, and Tony's going to hook you up with the guys that he uses. And like, we're going to get you better. We're going to try to help get you better." And I said, "Bro, I'll do anything, like whatever it takes." And I was so open-minded, and I tried everything else. I guess it'd be Western medicine and the pharmaceutical crap and all that stuff. And it didn't work. So I'm like, I'll try anything. So I've had balloons stuck up my nose and had the front plates of my face like popped out. I've had crown of thorns where they inject like hundreds and hundreds of needles around my head and like with Botox and all this stuff, trying to relieve the pressure and the nerves around the head. I've laid on like electrical blankets. I've been in the jungle doing ayahuasca, like the stupidest, craziest stuff you've ever imagined. And little tiny bits of it would work. And then I'd be like, grab that concept or that theory and start to understand how energy works. And then I started to change my story. Like instead of being the concussion guy and having to tell my stupid injury story all the time where people would feel sorry for me, I started to like reprogram my brain. And I'd say things like, I feel like I'm getting a little bit better every day. I feel like I'm getting a little bit stronger every single day. Man, I'm getting stronger. Look at I'm remembering more things. And I would talk to myself this way, even though it's kind of not really true, but I was talking to myself like it was starting to happen. And then eventually it started to happen. And then I would learn new concepts, and I changed my diet. I stopped drinking. I did all these things. And then like the light started to come back on. And I'm like, holy shit, I feel like myself. And just 2 years ago, I just ran an Ironman, 140-mile race. I got I got this little guy right here that my wife made for me.
Wow.
And I look at that as a damn miracle. I wrote my book, The Comeback, My Journey Through Heaven and Hell. I became a best-selling author. This thing behind me is a marketing award for selling over $1 million in a sales funnel online. And these things, I had no idea how to do any of them. I never done any races. I never ran far. I'm okay on the bike, but I'm a terrible swimmer. And I'm like, okay, if I can figure out this stuff on how to do these things, shouldn't I be sharing this with people? And now I took all these things from my grandmaster in China to the shamans, to the monk, to the Tony, to the energy people, to the healers, and I would bring them all into my world, and I just share it with people from a place of love. Fuck, I mean, I'm living a purpose now. I have purpose in my life. And Terry, this is the first time since hockey. I've been doing this for a long time now, but like this is the first time since hockey where I just get turned on by something. I'm just really excited to jump on a call. I had a call, and I have all different types of clients, but I had an NHL goalie who's trying to get back in the NHL, and he's a new client just a couple of days ago. And I was able to pull up a recording that I recorded 4 years ago. And we were in the middle of a conversation like this. And I said, wait a second, I think I might have something for you. And I recorded it one time. I didn't even know what it's called. And I Googled in my little, my hard drive, it pops right up. And then it's an hour and 45-minute training. And I fast forward to like an hour and 10 minutes. And I hit play just to see where it was at. And it was at the perfect place. And I literally was saying, hey, like imagine if you're a young guy in the NHL and you're up and you're down and you're not sure what's going on. And like it was describing this guy's life exactly how it is right now. And his jaw's on the floor. And he goes, when did you record that? I'm like, 2020. And he goes, it's like you recorded it for me. I go, I know. Is that wild? So
Isn't it funny
you know,
how that kind of, see, again, I've said it on here. I'm not religious, but definitely spiritual, and there's a karma to it. I don't know. Maybe I'm of the like Buddhist ilk. I don't just in that everything's gonna. I do believe that do unto others whatever good vibes, all that, and like it really is when you do positive things, or don't you find that that happens a lot? I've heard you talk about it, and like, and when you don't, there's like I can't explain it. Maybe you can better because you fought to find answers, and you've I mean, there's so much to unpack here because it's a chicken or an egg. As you're getting better, you're helping other people. Does helping the other people help you feel better? Because it would for
yeah,
me. An
no,
unselfish act today. You know, I often say to myself, my daughter, I'm like, let's do something good today. Today, we're going to do something good. We'll grab
amazing.
clothes or whatever it is that we're not using and we haven't used in a year. We'll go down to Goodwill, or we'll buy dinner for somebody and we're
Yeah,
just going to give it to somebody on the side of the street. Okay. I'm not, and
absolutely.
I've heard you kind of talk. Don't, I'm talking too much, but it's so inspiring to me to find somebody who I identify with, and you've searched for it, and I have kind of peppered my life here and there with things I learned from Riley Cote, or even musicians, Jim Cuddy, who is a very spiritual guy yourself, and it seems to me that we often find answers in helping and just communicating with others. I don't know what the question is there, but
Well, listen, I'll
I'm
tell you my
picking up
theory
on what you're laying down.
Yeah. No, I get it. But I believe as we elevate in our frequency and get closer to our higher version of ourself, we download more data. We get more guidance. And as we act on that guidance, go help that girl, go give that person a hug, go buy them dinner, go do goodwill. As you act on that feeling, it's like, yes, here's some more. Here's some more. And before you know it, you're literally a servant. And every day that you show up, you're a blessing to the world. So, like, whether it's making people laugh with your show or just saying something really kind, like, I was moved to tears when you made your comeback and you skated, and like, I could just feel your heart. And, we played junior together, and I always respected you and I always liked you as a player. And, we've kind of sort of
Vice versa, yeah.
in touch, but we're not like, best buddies. But I felt like you were my brother, and I was like really proud of you. And
Yeah, thank you for that. And I felt it. I felt like I was almost playing for people like me from my era, right? I was definitely, and where I was out of it for so long, it was more magnified. But I felt a vibe, and I appreciate it. I'm not doing this to obviously talk about my game or anything like those kind of things. When they happen, I really felt like a vehicle to. I'm like, this is a positive story here,
yeah,
and and I felt it, and I went with it, and right after that, that's why, man, like I was really busy, but I'm going to Sun Valley on the 10th. I told you, like, to speak about it, about my experience, and then sometimes I'll get called to do it. I'm like, and it's nice, most of these events I get paid, but sometimes it gets, you're flying across the country, you got a daughter, you got a life, you got to do, but I do feel almost a responsibility, a good one, because when I do speak at these events, and even sometimes I don't want to, sometimes, um, I just mean because I've never been great with speaking in public. When I get up there, I'm okay, but there's a level of nerves like before a big game that I could do without. But when I get there, I find like each time it ends, I'm like, man, there's so many positive vibes in here. And, it's why, again, we're getting back to you in a sec, but even Shoresy, right? I could be doing any show. I could be doing Stranger Things or something. I lucked into this show that spreads positive vibes as all this is happening. It's such every day I wake up and I feel that. So I guess what I'm saying is I really relate to the positive vibe thing, and I'm fortunate enough to see it kind of like you do, in that my profession leads me there. But getting back to it, you were in a dark place. I was there for a year. I don't talk about it much. It was 96, 97. I had a real bad concussion, and it led to post-concussion syndrome to this day. It's why I put on my glasses. I don't know what happened to you. For me, it would be like pressure right here.
yeah,
And it was almost like I could, that was just that side of it. There was anxiety, there was emotion. And I don't know if it was, I remember people going, well, I talked to Pat LaFontaine at the time. Brett Lindros had just retired. It was weird that it was just kind of being a thing. But, and I remember going, I don't know if the hit did something to my head to give me anxiety, but like I have a brain injury. Like I remember driving when you said driving around almost every day. Where am I going? Where the fuck am I going? And that would fucking scare anybody. Like, I don't have a broken arm. It's
and
my
you don't want
head.
to tell people, like, you don't want to tell people how crazy it really is inside your head, because
No.
you want to burden them and you don't want them to worry about you. So like my wife, when my book came out and stuff, like there were things in that she didn't know or she wasn't aware of. And she goes, "Why didn't you tell me?" I'm like, "Because
So you were going through it with her when you had your worst concussions. You were already with her.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you played 26 games in the A in 96, 90, or 97, or whatever that was, so that wasn't because of a concussion.
No, I had four hollow so I had hollow heels. So I kept feeling like my ankles were spraining, and then they do an X-ray, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" And it was like an eggshell in my heel bone that was completely hollow. There was nothing in it, and they said, "This is beyond our scope." So both my heels are like this. So I fly to Vancouver. I'm Vancouver's draft pick. I left my car at a Ford Taurus. I left on the side of the road. Tyson Nash was my roommate. I left my bed. I left my TV. I left clothes. I left everything. I go to Vancouver
from Syracuse.
And they're like, "Yeah, we'll get you in after Christmas to get the surgery." So I go in, do the surgery. They go in both feet. I live at the Rosedale and Robson, downtown Vancouver, and I have to crawl on my knees and on my hands because my feet are so fucked up. They're mangled, and they didn't want me to be in a wheelchair, but I couldn't walk. So whatever. So I gave the bellman my key, and I said, "Hey, I'm just going to order room service every day. If you can bring it into my room and put it on my bed, that'd be great." Because I couldn't really walk around. So I'd have to crawl to the bathroom, and my mom and dad were working. I had no friends. And after maybe like 10 days, I could get enough on my crutches to take a taxi to GM Place, which is right down the street. So I'd go down to GM Place. I'd sit in the hyperbaric chamber for like 2 hours a day. I wasn't part of the Canucks. I wasn't part of the Syracuse Crunch. I was just like kind of in limbo. But I started training with Pete Twist, and he could see how dedicated I was to fitness and health. And like I started, like my upper body was just massive. I did 225 29 times at training camp. And yeah. And
so is your mind? Are you of this ilk? Like, are you positive focus? Is the mental side, or were you just Jack going like, "I'm going to fucking dedicate myself"? You know what I mean?
Well, I had nothing to do, and I wanted to make the NHL. So I went to and I said, "I can't use my legs. What else can we work? Let's go core every day. Let's go upper body every day." And we just like, I'd be on.
It was a logical decision. It wasn't like you being enlightened by ayahuasca or anything yet.
No.
There was no higher power yet. You were just okay.
Yeah, and ayahuasca, I got not a great experience on that. But I'm on this. Remember those stupid arm things you'd have to do with your shoulders? Oh my God. I would do those forever. So
every time you had a lower body injury, you knew you were going to have to do that at some point.
So I was a rink rat. So like I would go there, and because it's hard for me to get around, I would just work out all afternoon, all day. And like the coaches saw me, the trainers saw me. I'm a good guy. I was making everybody laugh. Like I kind of became friends with the guys on the team, and they're kind of pulling for me. And then I'm supposed to be done with my therapy around June so I could get ready for the year. And they do x-rays to check on it, and they realized they fucked up my surgery on my right foot and had to do it all over.
I can't believe this.
So they took bone from my hip the first time and shoved it in there, and it wasn't enough bone. So the second time they went in, they took a donor bone of a lady's hip replacement, ground it up, and made like cement with it and put it inside the holes. And then that didn't work right. So they had to do it the last time and fill in that right foot. So my skates had like bubbles on the outside where they pushed it out because I had so much bone like overflowing from shoving it in there that my skates didn't fit. And it was massively painful. And they stapled my heels like on the outsides, the slices together. So I was always uncomfortable with my feet. Anyways, I don't get on the ice, Terry, until like what was it? I think camp was September 11th. And I think I got on the ice around August 18th or 20th. So I don't have a month. I got like 2.5 weeks to skate before training camp. And I go to training camp with the Canucks, and I walk over to Ron DeLorme, who's a scout for Vancouver. And I said, "Ronnie," I really respected him, and he really liked me. And I said, "What do I got to do to make this team?" He goes, "Bro," you might have a shot. I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, Bohanna scored 65 goals in the minors last year, but we got McGillney, Bure, Linden, Jelena, like just a bunch of studs up front, but we need some grit. So we got Gino, but he can play, and they don't want him fighting all the time. And then we got Troy Crowder, but like you could be a guy that runs around and bangs and crashes and gets us on the power play. So like if you play like a madman, you might have a chance to make this team and play solid. So I go out there and I fight 3 times, like first day and a half, like whatever. I'm in 3 fights. I'm running people through
Yeah.
I almost killed Pavel Bure. I hit Pavel so hard, he goes sliding through my legs and he's flat on his back like this. Like he was going 100 miles an hour this way, and I was hiding behind a guy and he didn't see me, and he tried to cut in, and I was going this way, full speed. And I didn't even feel anything. It was like hitting like a feather. And Pavel never gets hit like that. He's laying on his back. The whole Whistler Arena, we were in Whistler, BC, silent. And he doesn't move for like 5 seconds. I'm like, oh my goodness, what do I do? Gino comes over, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to fight Gino. And he didn't even know what to say. Like he's checking on Pavel. He's looking at me. He's looking at Pavel. And I'm like, he's like, hey, you can't hit Pavel. I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't think I could. So I go off the ice. Pat Quinn comes running down, and I thought I was in shit. And he's like, Scatch, that's the hardest I've ever seen Pavel Bure get hit in my life. He goes, that was unbelievable. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, am I in trouble? And he goes, hey, I'm going to put you on a line with Pavel and Gino tomorrow. So you're going to be centering them at camp.
Oh my God. I can't fight. Are you fucking unbelievable?
So that, hey,
that could have gone the other way. Holy
yeah. So listen. So Pavel's okay. He's not hurt. I'm on a line with him the next day, and he goes, just find open ice. And I'm like, okay. So him and Gino are like working together with each other, and I just jump to holes and he give it to me. I score a hat trick in inter squad game. And I'm like, shit, I have 3 fights. I've got a hat trick. I'm leading the camp in points. I might actually have a chance to make the team. And all of a sudden, camp's over, and we're heading to Japan to play Anaheim Mighty Ducks for the first ever NHL game outside.
Yeah, I remember that. It doesn't seem like so long ago, but yeah.
I know, it's 97.
Wild,
yeah. So I'm not really officially on the team yet. Like, they've never told me to get a house. They never told me anything, but they're like, okay, you can come to Japan. So I'm like, okay. So next thing you know, I'm flying to Japan. I don't sleep a wink. I'm so nervous. And we get to Roppongi, and the time change, and they're telling us to go out, and you can't even keep your eyes open because it's like 9 hours ahead or something. And it's just total craziness. I have dinner with the president of Japan or the prime minister, whatever he is, with Messier, Bure, McGillney, and they throw these prawns out on the teppanyaki table, and the prawns start running around. They're alive.
Oh my.
So I'm like, what the hell? They chop it all up into a million pieces, put all the heads in one pile, and throw the bodies on all our things. And they're like, very fresh. I'm like, yeah, no shit. It was alive 10 seconds ago. So we're eating it. It's the most delicious prawns I've ever had. And then he goes, now who wants dessert? And he grabs a pile of the heads and the eyeballs and the antennas. He's like popcorn. And all the veterans point to me, give it to the rookies. I'm eating these exploding prawn brains in my head, and it was delicious. But anyways, Messi is my roommate, so like they're like, hey, welcome to the NHL. Mess, mentor this guy. So Mess kind of took me under his wing, and I was only his roommate for those 2 games. Then he had his own room the rest of the year. But like I was a healthy scratch the first game, and then talk about divine appointments or serendipity or whatever. Mike Sillinger's screwing around on the ice with Artur Zerbe and cuts his calf, like all the way up his calf, and he can't play game 2. So I'm in the press box just sitting there, like hanging out, like I'm practicing hard and everything. And then they're like, hey, you're in tomorrow. And I'm like, what? Like, you're in. So I walk in, bro, seeing my jersey hanging in my stall, sitting beside McGillney and Messier.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, holy shit, I fucking did it, man. I made it. And like, I was an underdog, buddy, my whole career. Kind of a late bloomer.
I know you used to shoot buckets of pucks, didn't you? Like right from day one. Like I know that you're a guy that fought your whole life. I think that's why your story now is intriguing, and I'll get back to that. Just because you seem to always have to be fighting adversity, and I get it. We have a lot in common, and I sometimes divert to my own, but I felt kind of bad hijacking the interview earlier, but the reason is because I identify and our stories are so similar, and we're both forwards out of the Western League that. Honestly, when I went on the ice, the last thing I used to be thinking is grab guys and fight them. I wanted to put the puck in the net, but we had to adapt. and said, fuck it. And like, Matt, can you imagine if we knew this shit, like the things that you're talking about now about your higher self and, even just how to achieve the best of version of yourself and all these things that are kind of spiritual, I guess you could say, from my point of view. Can you imagine if we knew this stuff back then? It was just like go out and like you said, like we were good people. Like I always considered
We
myself
were
a good
just kids.
teammate.
Listen, buddy, we were just kids. Like no
Kids,
guidance. Like you got to hope your
nothing.
parents did a good job, and you're in this league, and there's all these veterans, and some like you, and some are giving you a hard time, and like you're literally just trying to survive and figure out this game of life. And it's like sometimes you do it right, and sometimes you fuck up. And hey, nothing's changed. We're still
But
in
you
the
knew
same boat.
you knew that if you worked hard, that at least what do I'll be a good teammate. What's my job here is to be a good teammate and be the best player I can be. So a lot led to that. But getting back to your story, I forget the order of things because when I saw that was you played those games, I just assumed that it was concussion. So I didn't realize that they came after that. But I heard you tell a story somewhere. I can't remember. You and Tyson Nash. Was it Loney was your assistant coach? And I think, or maybe not.
Loney was in the minors with me. Yeah, Loney
Was
was in the
this before that happened? And I think he referred to you guys. Well, you stuck around camp so long because you worked really hard and you set the
this
bar.
is
Now,
like 18 or 18-year-old camp maybe or something like that. Or I went up as an underage. So it was my 19-year-old camp. I think I made it when I was 20. So my 19-year-old camp, I go to camp and I don't know what to expect because there's a lockout on my 18-year-old camp or whatever. So like it was kind of weird. Like this is my first real NHL camp. I don't know what to expect. And Tyson Nash had an unbelievable camp. He was scoring. He was just hitting everybody. And I was somehow doing the same thing, but I hurt my shoulder right before camp. I dislocated my shoulder. So I wasn't really as physical as I normally am, but I was scoring and stuff. So Brian Loney had been called up the year before and thought he was a big deal and thought he's like the next guy to go. And he was a good player. He was very skilled. So it was me, Nash, and Loney that are still at camp with the season starting in like a few days. And we just played the LA Kings in exhibition and it's like game 6 out of 7. And we come back and like we both played really good. Like I felt like either one of us could have made it.
Yeah.
And we're in the taxi. Tyson and I are really proud. We just had our exit interviews and they're like, hey, you guys played awesome. Like really proud of you. You both worked your asses off. Like you both could have made this team. We're going to send you down, but you guys are going to be our first call up. They kind of told us that like it'd be separate interviews, but they basically said the same thing. And so I'm like, well, are you the first call up or am I the first call up? Well, we get in the cab and we're so proud of our camp. Like we almost made the NHL. And then Brian Loney is sitting there, and I'm in the front seat. Tyson and Loney are in the back seat. We're in a cab going to the airport to go to Syracuse. And he starts laughing at us. And he goes, are you fucking kidding me? You guys think you'll ever play in the NHL? And Tyson and I both look at each other like, what's he talking about? It's like, you guys don't get it. The only reason they're keeping you guys around is because like your energy and like how hardworking you are. He goes, your skill, you guys can't play in the NHL. You're not good enough to play in the NHL. And I'm like, is he right? Like, I'm like, is he? Because
I suppose, you're just young.
You start second guessing yourself. Like, does he know something I don't know? Are they lying to me? Like, did they tell me something that, like, are they making it up? Yeah. Is this what they do? Like, I don't know how the NHL works. I've never been there before. So
wild.
I almost started crying. Like, I'm in the front seat and I'm like, did they just keep me around because I worked hard? Like, that wouldn't really make any sense. Like, why? So then, like, I stopped talking the whole taxi ride home, and I'm like,
by the way, that in itself isn't a bad thing. What do you mean? You often keep people around because they work hard and they're pretty good players. It's exactly what you turned into. But anyway, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, but I gotta finish the story. So Tyson and I agree that we're gonna be roommates, and we're gonna go to Syracuse, and we both have a talk about it later, like privately. We're like, was that messed up or what? He's like, dude, I almost started crying. I'm like, I was crying. I was in the front seat. I was crying. I go, was he right? He goes, fuck no. Scatch, he's like, we played great. He goes, we played just as good as he. Listen, he's just jealous, man. He might be jealous and all this stuff. So we decided to live together and we made a pact with each other. And I was only there 26 games. I never finished the story. I made the Canucks, so I never went back. So I got a car on the street in Syracuse. I don't know where it is. It's just still there, I guess.
Wow.
So all my stuff, I don't even know what happened to my
Can
stuff.
you imagine driving out of there if you knew, if someone told you you're never going to be back, you would never believe them. You're driving out of there with fucking heel
Yeah.
problems. You know, you just
Yeah.
started in the
I didn't know
minors.
if I'd ever play hockey again with the heels. They told me I
You
might never
go
play
back.
again. So, anyways, we go and we make this commitment to each other. And we're like, we are gonna work our asses off, bro. Like unrelenting. We're the first ones on the ice. We're the first ones in the gym. We're the last ones off the ice, and we're gonna play so fucking hard they don't have a choice but to call us up.
Yeah.
And that's how we played. And we played unbelievable. I got called up to Vancouver to fix my feet because my feet were mangled. And I made it the next year. Tyson got buried down there for a few years and he never gave up. He never gave up. I have so much respect for Tyson because I know how hard he worked. He was a hardworking dude. He didn't make
and
the
he's
easy.
fucking underrated, man. He could always score way better than people thought because he was so good as a checker that you forgot. I'm like, he did play on the best junior fucking team ever. And he was a big part of that.
They were amazing. That whole team, Struds and I'm buddies with all those guys, Donor and Ginla, and you know, I played on a line
Kelly,
with
guys like you don't even think of Dominic Kelly and Aaron Keller, who's like as good as anybody, and he was just a great pro, but never played in the NHL.
Listen,
Anyway.
So when I was 12, I played on this line for the Northern Alberta Selects or whatever, and it was Dominic Kelly, Jeff Friesen, and myself. And we were the third line out of 4 lines on that team. And like out of that team, we had probably 9-10 guys make the NHL from when we were 12 years old.
Really?
For
was that the Vancouver Super Series? Did you go to that?
Yeah, we won
it. Newfoundland there one year. That's how I got to the Western League. We took a Newfoundland team. I played with the 76ers, so I would have probably played again. I mean, it was so long ago we didn't know each other.
Too. Yeah, I'm a 76.
Yeah, so I'm a 77, but I played with the 76ers. So I went out. It was just, I don't want to get into this and again, go on and on with my own story that people have heard. But so you must have been wondering, a lot of people in the league, like, how did this guy from Newfoundland get out here? It wasn't really scouted at the time. I went to a tournament in Quebec, and a team wanted me to play for Vancouver in that, the Vancouver Selects or whatever. And my dad was just like, we can take a team out and go to this. You don't have to play with them. Why don't we take a team? And that led to like Dan Cleary and Harold Druken, who would have been in Vancouver. All those guys. Yeah. Those guys came right after because of that. Like it opened the door. Cleary. So I came, played that tournament. Tri-Cities were there, and they gave my dad a golden handshake. Well, if you move to Quesnel, BC, I don't know why Quesnel, but I guess they had an affiliation.
Millionaires.
Theory. Yeah, that's it. And that's why you were in Kimberley, right?
Yeah, we were both trying to do the same thing.
I had to move out west to get drafted the Western League. You were from Alberta, but was it?
I was born in Alberta. I moved to British Columbia. So when I was in Alberta, I was pretty high. Like I was in this tiny coal mining town. My dad was a coal miner. 6,000 people, Hinton, Alberta. And then he ended up moving to British Columbia when I was like 12, and then like I kind of got lost in the shuffle. Like I always played 2 years ahead, and I started going to junior camps when I was like 12 years old. There's a great story in the book where I'm playing against these. I'm at main camp by accident when I'm 12, playing against 20-year-old. It's a great story, man. It's unbelievable. And the last game, I ended up scoring game-winning goal on breakaway and stuff. And but I was terrified, and I was like literally a baby. They would make eagle sounds every time I'd go in the shower. And I didn't know. And I started asking my dad, why are there lots of eagles in St. Albert or what? And he's like, no, what's reference? And I go, every time I go in the shower, they start talking about bald eagles. They were talking about me. I had no idea. So I'm this little kid. Like imagine you're in junior camp and there's a kid that's like 12 and he's like a boy. And he's
I played junior in Quesnel at 14. And I thought that was young. 12 is like 14 was super young. It was the youngest in Canada. I've never heard of 13, let alone 12. That would have been fucking insanity.
And there's a line brawl my first shift, and I'm like, I had a full XL7 helmet on with Cooperall pants. I was the only one wearing Cooperall pants, and I'm like, what the heck? And I slept in the truck the night before. We didn't have a lot of money, so I slept in my dad's work truck, his mining truck, this red beat up mining Suburban, and the seals were all broken on it because he bought it from the mine. And we couldn't afford a hotel, so we had sleeping bags in the back, and we slept the whole night. It was freezing cold. I get up, and I hear car doors slamming at the St. Albert Arena, and I look over, and there's a dude getting out with a beard, grabs his hockey bag, and he walks in. I'm like, Dad, are there 2 rinks here? And he's like, no. I'm like, well, what are these guys doing here? He's like, I don't know. So we walk in. Dave Scatchard's here for the St. Albert camp. They're like, yeah, where is he? They're looking around for like a big guy. And I'm like, I'm right here. And they're like, how old are you? I'm like, 12. They're like, something's off. And they're like, this is main camp. And I go, well, here's my invitation. Like, they're like, they go get the GM. He comes over. He's like, hey, listen, this is a
like 1920.
This is a mix-up. You shouldn't be here. We're not going to let you play. And my dad's like, are you shitting me? He pulls him to the side. He goes, we just slept in the truck the whole night. The kid wants to play. Like, let him play. And the guy's like, you got to sign something. If he gets hurt, like, we're not responsible. And he goes, how about this? We give him one game. And if he survives, then we can talk about more games. But we'll let him play one inter-squad game. And I was so scared. The guys were so big and so fast. But kind of halfway through the game, I started to like figure out like, oh, I'm actually pretty agile. And even though I'm littler, I can kind of make some plays. And I had an assist. I almost scored. I get off the ice. My dad's like, what do you think? And he goes, you did great. And I said, I think I want to try again. So I think it's like 3 or 4 games we got. And then the next game I scored. And then the last game, I think I had a goal and an assist or 2 and the game winner. And that was my introduction to junior. And I'm like, wow. So that was the first time I kind of realized I might be able to play.
Fuck yeah. You might be able. Okay. So you must. Okay. I was going to lead with that, growing up, were you, how early did you realize that? Because some people find out in midget, some people,
I was like 4 years old in preschool and I was drawing NHL. I wanted to be a hockey player and the Oilers were my guys. So like I had a great team to watch growing up.
I heard you getting back to it. You shot, didn't you shoot like 100 pucks a day or something?
Yeah. So this is a good example for people out there. So I use this in my coaching business now, but like my dad said, so I always reverse when I'm coaching people, I try to reverse engineer it for their business. So like, what's our goal? So if we know what the goal is, then we can reverse engineer the steps on what'll help us achieve that goal. But if you don't know with crystal clarity what you're trying to do, it's really difficult. I think that's a lot of people's issues is they're not quite clear enough or committed enough to go for it. But once you get that clarity and that commitment, then you know what you're trying to do. If you're like, oh, I want 2 podcasts a week and I want to be this and I want to be, have sponsors and I want to do that. Like once you commit to that, you know what you got to do. And as long as you follow the steps, you're more than likely going to get closer to that goal. So my dad said to me, you want to make the NHL? Great. What are you lacking? And I'm like literally 7 or 8 years old at the time. And I go, well, they're much bigger than me. They're faster. They're stronger. They shoot the puck harder. They got better conditioning. And he goes, okay. He goes, what? Out of all those things, what do you think you're the most control? You could be the most control of? And I said, we've been collecting pucks that fly over the rink every year. So I got like 100 pucks in my backyard and we got the plexiglass, the Teflon to shoot off of, and we got a hockey net. So I said, I bet you if I shot 100 pucks every single day, like rain or shine, snow, if I did that, I would get ahead of all the other kids. He's like, okay, why don't we try that? Like he was never pressuring me or anything. He would ask me like,
I love that. Yeah. My dad was similar. Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, you know what, if I do that, and he goes, so that's your commitment to yourself, right? You're not doing this for me. This is for you. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, I bet you if you shot 100 pucks a day, that's 3,000 a month. That's 36,000 pucks a year. And you're 8 and you do that till you're 20. That's a lot of pucks. That's a lot of shots. Right. So he said, is that something you're willing to commit to? And I said, yes. So I was all about it. And then I found out rollerblades existed and I would rollerblade to school. I'd deliver my newspapers on my rollerblades. I lived on my rollerblades. So I'd rollerblade constantly. I'd beat the bus to school. Kids would be yelling out the window. It'd be like this race, like a movie, I'd shoot the 100 pucks. It'd be pouring down snow and I couldn't even find my pucks because they'd go in the banks and stuff and I have no idea where they are. But I'd make sure I got 100 in. And then my dad goes, how many other kids do you think are shooting right now? And I'm like, none. He goes, exactly. Yeah. This is where you get your edge. This is why the Michael Phelpses of the world train 365 days, because when you're coming down to 5/1000ths of a second for a swimming race, that extra day of training might be the thing that gets you there.
And there's millions of players worldwide. Millions.
Yeah. All of them trying to get the job. So like, why wouldn't I position myself with at least my shot? I always had a great, really accurate shot. 1 year I almost led the league in shooting accuracy. but I knew where the puck was going when I shot it, and I felt
Yeah.
really comfortable in any position to shoot the puck, and it helped me stay in the league, and it helped me even when my skating wasn't as fast. It always kept me in the league and kept me in the game. But I'd say to people in their lives, like, okay, you want to lose 50 pounds because you're fat and you're overweight? Okay, what's your 100 pucks a day? It's just showing up, man, every day, consistently. There's a great book, Atomic Habits. It's an amazing book, and it talks about the compounding effects of like consistent actions. And when you do consistent actions over the course of a long period of time, it starts slow, but then the results start to just skyrocket, like
That's a
when the
great
compounding
point.
gets big enough. So I try to simplify things for people where they understand that. I'll
When
say
you
to my
say
kids,
people, before you go further, because I'll forget, sorry. When you say
yeah,
people, like what you're saying right now would be great advice for, say, my daughter's soccer team or a junior
yeah,
hockey team or any team, really. Sports is
yeah.
just part of it. So are you speaking to groups or are you individual, like with your
Yes.
coaching, I
So
mean?
this is, I'll give you really fast. So I speak from stages all over the place. People hire me to come in and speak. I speak for corporations. I speak in front of groups. One of the groups I coach is a financial group of like 40
Okay.
financial advisors. I have one-on-one clients that are all walks of life, from, business owners to grandmas to NHL players to Olympians. Like, these are all the people I work with. I help men and women. Actually, like probably 75% of my clients are women, ironically. I don't know how that happened, but and then I have groups. So they're all different tiers of pricing and stuff. So everyone can kind of get to work with me. But the groups are really fun because I'll be coaching one person, say out of a 30-person group, but it's affecting like 25 other people. And they're like, oh, that was my question too. I'm so happy that you answered that. And then I'll
Okay.
be talking about this over here, and it's like cross-pollination. So you might ask a question that's really great question, and this person hadn't thought to ask that question. So I'm giving you the answer, but this person's like, oh my gosh, that's a game changer for my business. I never even thought of that. So it's really fun. Like, it's like a game to me, and I'm really good at it. And I believe God chose me to do this. Like, listen, you might not have thought about this, but I have. Without my injury, people can latch onto the identity. Okay, so identity is very dangerous and positive depending on what you pick.
And
So
forever changing.
let's say the Mayo Clinic says, Dave, you're permanently disabled, and I go, well, you guys are the smartest guys in the world. Okay. And I go back to my life, and I don't seek it out, and I accept the diagnosis.
Yeah.
That's my identity forever, the permanently disabled guy.
Yeah.
And they're the smartest guys, so why wouldn't I believe them or listen to them, right? It's insane. But I chose another identity. I said, no, I'm the guy that's like going to figure it out. I'm the guy that's going to travel the world and find, like, I spent over $1 million trying to fix it and hire all these people. But having my brain be able to work and having my body be able to do an Ironman and having a story now that I can share and inspire people with, like, that's worth far greater than that. And having my life and now my impact, Terry, I've had over 25,000 people come through my programs. That's a lot.
Unbelievable.
And that would
So
have never happened if I stayed the hockey player and made $1 gajillion and like blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm so grateful that God gave me this injury, because it was placing me into this orbit that I'm in now that has impact, and I'm a servant. And same thing for you. You wouldn't be doing the TV show and you wouldn't be doing the podcast if you're still just dangling and golfing every day. So no one would get to know your heart or your soul or your ideas.
I'm telling you, when you said identify, yeah, like I had a hard time. I created my own fate. I didn't go back to Montreal camp, and I hurt my ankle holding out because I didn't like Michel Therrien. And I said, fuck that. And in the end, I said, what did I do? And I spent some years in the concussion that year didn't help. So like I really was down, man. I was really down. And I went home, and I had the whole province, like I had the key to the city. I had my jersey retired. I was 23 back there and looking for a job. And
Wow.
things are taxed. And, I went through a divorce. I didn't have as much money as everybody thought. I'm telling you, I identify with a lot of what you're saying. Even I went back to school, and then even that, there was a rough time in mid 2010s, nearly bankrupt, man. And I've talked about it on here before, and people go through, and I always felt I was fighting adversity to some point. And even my career, like I used to be kind of jealous, and I'd see my buddies, Aaron Asherman, Jealous is the
Yeah.
wrong word. I always rooted for people, but I think there was a resentment inside me going, fuck, man. Like, because I knew I fucked up, right? I did it. I was a good teammate. I was a good player, and I fucked up. And if I did whatever it is with Terry, and then I let him win. And now I totally forgive him. He was there, I'd shake. I mean, it was hockey shit, like, but anyway, and then my books, for example, Tales of a First Round Nothing. When I was like, I did go in the first round. I look back at it, it took 4 or 5 years, and I'm like, it was an interesting time. I played for the Habs, like I went, so many unique things happened, and I started to accept it, and I called it that. Some people were like, don't be down on yourself. I'm like, I'm not, but it was a story of a boy growing up. It was different. I went to Cornell at 14, had all these experience, and I started to really embrace it. Sketch, I was on crew for 4 or 5 fucking years, man, and just jump how high. I was a production assistant. I had to swallow my pride. I didn't mind it at all. I was happy to get back in and get out of my financial problems with having a job on set that gave me a few $100 a day, and I worked into it. Talk about worlds coming together.
Buddies. I think you went Stuntman Todd.
That's where I was going with it. So I was going right there. So this happens my 5th or 6th year. They come over to do Frontier. Momoa, I talk about meeting Jason Momoa. Well, I don't know. I forget how you know Todd. I think it's from Vancouver. Dude, I meet him. Great guy. We identify right away. And he's a stunt guy. So Momoa needs some guys doing stunts. And they teach me they take me to Europe for a couple months, man. They teach me. I'm with the stunt guys from Lord of the Rings, Craig Hennison, Spider-Man stunt double. Like, I'm learning from all these people, and Todd is wicked. He's one of the best guys around, tough. Like, he's the stereotype, like, you know what I mean? Like Chuck Norris type guy. He can do
one of my
anything.
best friends. Yeah, I love
your
the
car
guy.
breaks down, he's gonna fix it. He's the best at what he does. He has beers like Lyle Odeline, and he'll wake up at 7 a.m. and let's go, boys. Like, that guy is an old school. He should be a movie character. Clint Eastwood, Good, the Bad, and the you know what I'm saying.
I want him to write a book, but I don't know if it'll ever happen. Yeah, he's a great guy. He was in my wedding. He's one of my favorite people on earth.
How do you guys know each other? I couldn't believe when he brought that up when we were. Yeah, it was like first 2 hours I met him. He brought it up.
So he introduced me to Momoa back when Momoa was doing like Stargate or whatever that show was in Vancouver. So Momoa and I had some good times way back. This was like 97 or something like that. But Todd was in Salmon Arm, British Columbia, where we moved to when I was 12.
Yeah.
And he was like this stud basketball player, and like all the girls loved him, and he's funny, and he
me at all. Yeah.
And he loved me right away. And then he kind of was my bodyguard a little bit in Vancouver. So like, he loved hanging out with the fellas, and he just moved down there to do stunts. And I'm there as a 20-year-old playing in the NHL, and I'm like bringing him to all the games, and he's buddies with Mess, and like he's hanging out. And then like, he's like, hey, anything goes down, I got you. You got too much to lose and stuff. So like, we'd go out and we'd have a good time. And then like, I always knew he was watching my back, and he's a dear friend. Just saw him this summer, a couple weeks ago. And
how's he doing?
He's doing amazing. He says say hello. And, we actually brought up your name. Oh, because of Shoresy. Yeah. My kids love it too. So they told me to say hi. And all that.
Wow.
Oh, you know who else likes Shoresy is Vince Vaughn, the actor.
No.
Yeah. So
I love hearing this, right? I would never know otherwise. I have no idea.
I know. So listen, I'm in Cabo, and I'm at this billionaire birthday party. And it's like a $4 or $5 million birthday party this guy throws, and $700,000 drone show. And Vince is at my table, or sits down for dinner at my table. I start bullshitting. He's like, Scatchard, right? And I'm like, Vince Vaughn knows who I am. I'm like, no way. He's like, yeah, Canucks and Islanders, and like he knew my teams and stuff. And he's like, he's a huge hockey fan.
I see him at the games. I didn't realize he was this big of a fan.
He's a huge fan, and his dad lives right down the street from me in Paradise Valley here in Arizona. And he watched a bunch of the games at the Mullet Arena, which is this little 5,000 seat arena for the Coyotes. And he goes, that's a place to watch hockey. He goes, I watched 5 games there last year. His wife is so down to earth. She's from Alberta, totally normal girl, cool girl. But he starts quoting Shoresy to me, and I couldn't believe it. And he's using all the one-liners, and he absolutely loved it. So
listen, if it wasn't for Todd, I'm not just Todd, but I often tell the story about Momoa and Alan Hart and these, because people know who they are. But Todd had to really battle to get me onto that stunt team, and that got me in the union. And it's part of the reason that I'm sitting here talking to you right now. I was crew until the day I met him. That's the truth.
Wow.
It's funny how, we talk about vibes and positive, and you know what I mean? And had I not taken a job filling the director's coffee for a few years and parking cars out front doing locations, it wouldn't have led me to that. right?
Wow.
Anyway, so do you coach hockey though as well, right?
Yeah. So I've always coached. My kids weren't really in, like, they liked it, but they didn't really get it, you know? And I was like, okay, they're not hockey players. So we'll just play house league or whatever. And then my son last year wanted to play travel. And I'm like, I don't know if he's good enough. I don't really know if he's going to make it. He was kind of the last cut. And he's growing. He's like he's almost 6'3". He's 15. He's about 130 pounds. He's just like skinny. And but he's big. And now he can skate well because he had a whole year of travel practice, you know? And my other son watched him do that. And he's like, Dad, I want to play travel. So then I'm like, okay. So I'm like, if you guys are serious about this, I'll coach. And I can't be the head coach because I have to leave for speaking and gigs and stuff like that sometimes. So like I'm the assistant, but I'm essentially, you know, doing a lot with the team. And I just absolutely love to see their growth and how they're sponges right now. And they're into it. Like, Terry, I've been waiting for this my whole life. My son runs 5 miles in the morning, does a cold plunge. He practices with the 14 under, the 16 under, and then his high school team. So he's on the ice like 10 days a week. I'm like, hey, is it too much? Like, I don't want to get burnt out. He's like, hell no. He's like, I'm getting better every single time I go on the ice. Anyways, all these.
How old is
He's 15. He's 15.
Okay,
yeah.
so wait, he's 15, and wait, because there's when people hear that, because now minor hockey down there is pretty good. When we were starting, I think it would be laughable, the hockey in Phoenix
Yes.
or Arizona. Am
Correct.
I wrong? Okay,
No,
I haven't been there in a while. I just wanted to make sure. I mean,
it's amazing now.
Because all you guys probably had kids, and well, you're telling me that, but is it a lot of transplanted Canadians with kids that got it going?
It's all NHL guys that are all like coaching all these kids. So like Derek Morris and Steve Sullivan's team, the 18Us, I think won nationals last year. Like the best team in the country from Phoenix. Like it's hilarious. We got
wild. That's wild. It's a new hotbed. It's like Michigan or Minnesota traditionally.
You know, Dallas Drake and Dave Ellett are coaching another one of the junior Coyotes teams. Like everywhere you look is like pedigree, like amazing NHL pedigree.
Wow.
Like I was telling you before we got started, our alumni skates are incredible. We got guys like Dallas Drake, Dave Ellett, Curtis Joseph, Wayne McBean, Greg Adams, Ray Whitney, myself, Grabner, McCulloch, like some guys who just retired, Donor. We got guys who just retired a couple years ago and they're in there flying. So we practice at like 11 o'clock on Thursday mornings and it's so fun. Like I never thought I'd skate ever again after my head injuries, buddy. Ever.
Hey, you nearly didn't skate after your foot injuries and then the head. But you know when you're smiling and you're laughing, like I remember when I was at my darkest, and again I'm talking about 1 year, but it was very distinctive. I know it was post-concussion, like and like I said, like sometimes now I get these, I wear glasses that are tinted a little bit, but I know I got out of it pretty good. But what I'm saying is that during the time I was in, like, there's no chance I'd be able to like get on like this and laugh, and I started to realize, wow, I'm okay. I'm getting when this started to happen. So right now you seem like a very, very happy, one of the best versions of yourself, you would probably think. So when did that, after all you've been saying, and when did that turn the corner? When could you finally laugh and not feel guilty or anxious about it?
Okay, there's two massive miracles, I would say. And I was driving. The first Tony Robbins event I did was Leadership Academy. And I went there to see Tony, and Tony doesn't even teach that one. He has other people teaching it. So I'm like, what the hell, you know? So I drove 6 hours from Scottsdale to San Diego, and my head injuries were so bad. It was so stressful for me that I would pull over every 2 hours and have a nap. Like, imagine not being able to drive for 6 hours. Like, what's wrong with me? Right?
I remember that night it being worse. You'd think it'd be better, but the lights on the other side of the street coming. Were you like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
It would make you sick. Yeah.
Blind me. Yeah.
Noise was so bad. Noise was so bad. Anyway,
so I'd just be in silence by myself. Yeah. And I go there, and it's terrible to say, but I kind of made a deal with God, and I said, hey, I need a miracle here. Like, I can't live another 50 years or 60 years.
You're out
like
of
this.
options.
I'm gonna just check out. So I said, I need a miracle. If I don't get a miracle this weekend, I might be out of here. And I didn't know if I would have done it or whatever. I hate to even talk like that. Or I couldn't like get better what's the point? Like I couldn't just sit there and be a vegetable the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
Every day waking up and questioning your brain, going, hopefully, and then I remember opening my eyes, hopefully, and then going, oh fuck, I'm still fucked up. Like,
yeah, I know.
horrible.
And I have nothing but compassion. But here's a couple of things that happened that weekend. One, I did this exercise and they were trying to go back to the purest version of your soul. Okay. So they're like taking you back 20, 16, 15, 14, 13. And I kept going back younger and younger and younger. And I remember I was 5 years old. Oh my God, this is going to make me cry. I was 5 years old. I was wearing a Superman cape and I was running around, flying around the campground. I had a dog, Irish setter named Rusty and another one named Penny. And I was playing with my dogs. And I was playing in the creek and I was helping my grandma. And we were camping and I was with my dad. And I was just trying to be a little helper and help everybody and saying hi to all the neighbors. I was just like pure, right? I hadn't really been spanked or, you know, I hadn't had my heart broken. I hadn't been bullied.
Yeah.
I was just pure, right?
Happy and naive.
My guards were down. I was just this little light ball running around.
Yeah.
And I fast forwarded to when I was this, at the time, I think I was 37 or 38 now. I've been done like trying to do the Mayo Clinic and didn't work. So I'm on my own now, 38. And I fast forward to this like strong, tough gladiator that's like have my guard up, have my armor on, ready to go to battle every day. Nobody's going to take my job. I'm not hurt. I'm not injured. I'm not afraid. Like, you know, like we've been programmed to be as a hockey player or whatever. Right. And I couldn't even see little David with his little cape on. And I'm like, what the fuck? Who am I? I'm not him. I'm not a little free light that's floating around helping everybody. I'm this jaded, beat up, like chewy, like leathery, gristly soul that's trying to force life instead of being part of life and being the energy source. They're like letting God's light shine through me. And I just had like this weird thing and I started freaking out and I'm like, where is he? And I'm like, he's deep inside of me, but he's stacked under all this armor. So I started ripping off this armor. Get off me, get off me, get off me. Years and years and years of armor. And I feel it like falling down at my feet. And I was at the World Trade Center after right after the towers went down. And it was so hot that my shoes started to melt. All the fires burning underneath the rubble. We were trying to go there to support the firemen. And that's what I was feeling. Like my little David was underneath all this rubble that was falling off of me. And I had to like finally, when I got off the last piece, Terry, I reached down and I picked up this like little boy. I said, I'm so sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry that I had to hide you and bury you because you would have gotten crushed out here. And he just looked up at me. He's like, that's okay. And I go, hey, you're the way that God made me, not this other thing. So I'm going to be really vulnerable and I'm going to like let you guide me and let you be the way. And I said, we got no armor on right now. So you might get annihilated. But I feel like you're supposed to show me how to be because you're the truth. And the day that I did that, I literally felt like I got completely washed. It felt like all the healing energy that was stacking up around my armor that hadn't been able to get to me because the armor was so thick, it just started healing me like almost instantaneously. I almost felt like I was like being reborn. So I go to the mirror that night and I'm brushing my teeth. I'm looking in the mirror and I said, you know, thank you for relieving that from me. But I don't know why you were punishing me this whole time. Like, it's like I was talking to God. And God goes, I wasn't punishing you. I was training you. For the people that are going to come into your life, you're going to be able to know exactly where they are. Because you've never felt anxiety. You've never felt hopelessness. You've never felt depression. You never felt fear. I showed you all those things. So by going into the dark depths of hell and like to the bottom and having the high contrast of making it and achieving all my goals and living in the NHL, now I have this incredible sense of where people are at when I'm coaching them and I can meet them there. I can say, you know what? I know exactly where you're at, and I was there too. And these are some things that helped me get out of it. So that same weekend, I was doing this swish pattern. It's this complicated, like, psychological technique, but essentially you're replacing this old vision with this new vision. Like it takes a while. I end up replacing this body image of myself on the ice with paramedics working on me, me going up on a spinal board as I'm leaving my body. And I did have a near-death experience. But as I'm leaving my body, that was the image that was locked in my brain of my body. And I replaced that with this 18-year-old picture I had where I was just jacked, 6% body fat, 220 pounds with a ski. I was water skiing with my dad, and he took a picture of me on the back of the boat. And my shoulders were good. I hadn't broke my nose 12 times. I hadn't had my teeth knocked out. I hadn't broke all my ribs. I had the heel surgeries. Like nothing had happened yet, right? And like, that's me. That's my body. That's the image. And as I stood up and I made the sound of like that image, I'm like, yes. Something released behind my eyeball, Terry. And I had these migraines for 3 years where it felt like I had like a ice pick stuck behind my eyeballs, my temples. It's almost like it just melted. And it felt like this like hot water balloon filled with water had a pinhole and was spraying around inside my brain. And my whole right side of my face starts to go purple. And the trainer comes running over. She's like, oh my God, sit down. What's going on? Are you having an aneurysm? She thought I was having a brain aneurysm. And I go, no, this is good. This is good. And all that pressure that had been built up for years, 3 years, relentless, started to dissipate. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to get better. And she's like going to call an ambulance because she's like, they've never seen anything like it. My whole face, and it's draining down here. But something emotionally locked in my brain released and let it go. And this whole side of my head was like 100% better. And I called my wife that day. I go, I'm going to be better. I said, I'm going to be okay. I said, something magical happened today.
Jesus, that's the best possible answer. I thought you were going to say, oh, one day I just figured forge into the, be positive, some cliche. Holy fuck, dude, that's an unbelievable. So you tell this story. No wonder people are captivated by it. And it's your story is so intriguing. We're an hour in. I got to go. We got a wrap party today. I'd love to have you back. So I had Brent Sopel on. He was intriguing too. I had him on, and I had to do a volume 1 and 2. I know you're pressed for time at some point soon, because I want to hear about your first NHL goal. I want to hear about
right.
There's a lot of great things about hockey that I love that I know that you share with me, that your love for the game. But I love that we started here because this message needed to be heard. I mean, I'm sitting here. I just had goosebumps. That was such an inspirational story that you nearly had me sobbing, and now I see the connection that you have to all these people that choose to you choose the path that you chose, or choose to be in your, would you call them clinics?
I have masterminds. I have workshops. I have live events. I have one big live event every year that's amazing. I bring in all these top speakers and coaches and blow everybody's minds for 3 days. It's super powerful. That's called the All-Star Weekend. I've got my All-Star retreats.
Is there a website?
Yeah, you can go to allstarcoaching.com, and that'll get you in my world. You can message me at Instagram. If you want, I'll give your guys a book funnel where they can go in and grab a book at a discounted price, and I'll send them a autographed copy of the book if any of your listeners want to go for that. So I can send you all those resources later. But essentially at Dave Scatchard at Instagram, allstarcoaching.com. And then, the book's called The Comeback, My Journey Through Heaven and Hell. And, I have stuff, the cheapest program I have is like $27 all the way up to like $120,000. So, we help serve as many people as we can. What's crazy is like, I didn't even know this, but hang on one second. I literally looked up and look, here's my Superman cape. It was hanging. I was unpacking boxes yesterday, and this is the cape I had when I was a little boy right here. That's what I'm like, what the hell? Because I just put that there yesterday.
Did you take that? So you take that around with you?
Well, I haven't really shown it on stage, but maybe I should. I have a great picture.
I think.
Listen. You're gonna love this. So I'll be really quick. My grandma my grandma Bear, she's she's 98 now, but she came from Saskatchewan and she came down to visit in Phoenix, her last flight that she really took. She's still alive, but I'd done all this deep work. I've been doing all this deep work, and I kept seeing the little picture of me, David, and my dad held my feet and my mom took a picture. So I was sideways and it looked like I was flying. I had my cape on, and grandma, it's the last gift underneath the tree. And she didn't know any of this shit. And she goes, David, I don't know what to get you. Like, you have everything. She goes, but I found this really cool picture of you and I'd like you to have it. And I opened it up and it was the picture of me with my Superman cape on. And I had just had that experience the week before. And I was like, what the heck? I just started bawling.
Incredible. That's incredible.
I said, this is like, that's God working in my life. He's confirming the lessons that I'm learning. So every day is a great chance to be a blessing and to learn. And
I love how you say learning, right? In other words, I'm still doing it. I'm coaching these people, but because I'm really do believe that we're forever changing, and there's all kinds of versions of myself, and you just try to improve yourself every day. But once you realize that you'll always be learning and you're open into that, I guess that's vulnerability, right? I guess that's kind of where you're going with it. It's almost necessary for many things to at least experience vulnerability on some level. You talk about the soul, and any version I know of myself that feels good to, like, I'm trying to relate to you saying about all that weight coming off and everything. At the core, like you said, you're always learning, but whatever's at that core, it's funny that you say, because we start with it. Like I've never heard it spoken like that. Like, the journey that you're getting to, when you're 5, you were there.
Yeah.
You've been kind of drifting away from, so it's almost a full circle.
It's almost like unprogramming all the programming that we got over our lifetime to get back to where we were when we started, before we were programmed.
Yeah. Fuck. Well, that's why you're Dave Scatchard. That's why you do what you do, and you're great at what you do. I got to take off.
All right,
I got a big day.
Have a good wrap party. Congratulations on the show. I'm super pumped for you. I love, my kids love the show. They laugh so hard. And my brother-in-law was from Tennessee yesterday, and he doesn't like, hockey's not really, he lives in the sticks, that's where my wife's from. And I said, hey, I'm going to do this podcast with my friend Terry tomorrow. And have you ever seen the show Shoresy? And then I literally just Googled Shoresy chirps on YouTube, and it started playing it. And he was pissing his pants laughing. And he goes, I got to watch this.
It's hard sometimes to keep a straight face, man.
Oh, man. It must be so hard.
Those scenes? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun. And it's so wild because it's a lot. We're all hockey players, right? So we're in we get to put on our gear and we're talking, telling stories. It's almost like we're in a time machine. It's a lot of fun, though. It's unlike any other.
Yeah, you do a good job with it.
Listen, and it's wild that we're having this conversation. Like I said, we do have a lot of common denominators, but I hadn't planned on talking about Todd Scott, but it's wild. It's a direct link, in a very in a world, I guess, that's big, but it's small. Positive vibes. At some point, I was probably going to meet Todd, and I'm not surprised that you said he was so close. Listen, thanks for doing it. I'm going to get at you soon for round 2. And we're going to get into some hockey stuff. About the Kimberly Dynamiters, we didn't even talk about that. The Portland Winterhawks, those old Western days.
We'll just do hockey next time because I got a million stories. So,
Wicked.
I look forward to sharing those stories with you. And listen, for any of your listeners out there, like, if you're ever going through anything, just let me know or reach out to me. I try to be open with all our people, and we have lots of free stuff we can give people. So it's like, we've all been through it. Sometimes it just feels like you're alone, and know that you're never alone. Terry's there and I'm here, and we care about you guys. And, it's life's too short. We want people to enjoy it and have fun. So
I couldn't have said it any better myself, my friend. Keep doing what you do. I'm going to be in touch soon, and stay tuned for round 2 with Dave Scatchard. And we're going to call that the hockey episode. Thank you, my friend.
All right, buddy.
I'll be in touch.
Thanks, buddy. Have a great day.
You too. That's it, folks. Dave Scatchard. There you go. I came across Dave, I guess, on the ice way back in Junior A in 92, 93 when I was 15. And I guess Dave would have been 16. We moved on to the Western League and, of course, pro. And even though we were geographically a long way apart, like you guys just heard, there was many different connections over the years, the hockey world, the film world, but not only that, just at some point, I think we were going to find each other. Positive vibes are addictive, and they also are, what's the word? The positive vibes are not only addictive, but in the community that we played, where you learn to be teammates, or that we were raised, and then you learn to be a teammate in the hockey world. And a lot of it is being team sacrifice and everything. And they're definitely values that are great that you can learn in life and you can share. And I believe they made us into who we are today. It's part of the reason Dave's a good person, but there's another search for your soul and yourself and, your higher self sort of thing. I'm not religious, but I'm definitely spiritual. When Dave uses the word God, I probably would use the word energy, but we're talking about the same thing. So when people are out there, I know I'll get a lot of emails and texts and DMs about this episode. Well, I can identify. I think you can. And when he mentioned his website and everything else, just check it out, because I'm definitely going to take him up on it. And I think that at the point that I'm in, whoever I'm talking to, you're all in different stages of life. But the point that I'm in, I'm very comfortable with searching for, if you want to say higher self, again, soul, whatever that might be. And that's a lifelong journey that I embrace. And Dave's really embraced it. And I'm sure that he can help you just be the best version of yourself you can be. So check into it. Thank you, Dave. If you're downtown in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, folks, you want to go out for a beer or a coffee or even a sandwich, you want to check out George Street, why not go to the Bull and Barrel, TJ's Pub, Rob Roy Confusion, Martini Bar, Greensleeves, and of course, Trinity Pub, if you want to go for a bite to eat. Loose Tie, Blue on Water, or Wedgwood Cafe, or my choice is Wedgwood Cafe. Also, do catering. Look at Peter Wedgwood on Elizabeth Avenue. For more, Ryan Power Conditioning, strength and balance for the body and mind on Rope Walk Lane. Check into it, please. He is one of the best trainers around. Athletes, non-athletes. You talk about a better version of yourself, Ryan Power will help you get there. 2 locations, Mr. Lube in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. One's on Kemont Road. One is on Torbay Road. Live, laugh, lube. And of course, Pipple Pain Relief. Pain sticks just don't quit. Folks, True Hockey, take what's yours. I'll be back in just a couple of days with more Tales with TR. Take care of yourselves. Catch you on the rebound. Thanks again to Dave Scatchard. One hell of a guy, one hell of a guest. See you guys soon.